Hello, everyone, and good morning. Thank you so much for being here. If you're here for the software quality platform as an antidote to sideload test automation webinar, you are in the right place. My name is Lucio Daza. I will be your host today. And with us today, we have Thomas Doe. He is the product manager for TestCloud here at Katalon. Hey, Thomas, how are you today?
Hi, Lucio. I'm doing great. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much for asking. So, a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. This webinar is going to be recorded. So, if by any chance you arrive late or need to go and then catch up later where you left off, you can go ahead and access the webinar on our resources page where you can watch it on demand later. Also, if you have any questions, please go ahead and use the Q&A button that you will see at the bottom of your screen on the Zoom interface. There is a quick there is a button with a couple of bubbles here. If you have any questions, even though we have a Q&A session at the end, please don't wait until then to ask any questions that you may have. Just go ahead and click the Q&A button, put your questions in there, and then we will take care of them as soon as possible. And of course, if you want to communicate with the rest of the panelists or those who are in the audience right now, you can use the chat window. With that being said, also we will have a quick poll at the end of the webinar, so please stick around to give us your feedback on how did you like the today's presentation. And without further ado, I'm going to walk you really quick through today's agenda. We just did an introduction. We are going to also talk about the organizational problems with software quality and what is exactly happening there, what is the root cause, and how is it that we can solve this. And then at the end, also Thomas is going to show us how all these can be, how all this looks in real life. Without further ado, I'm going to give the screen control to Thomas, and please enjoy the presentation. Thomas, the time is yours.
Okay, great. Let me share my screen. So, can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, all right. Yep. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about some of the organizational problems with software quality. I'm going to also address the root cause and the solution. So just a quick glance so that everyone can see what I'm going to talk about. So let's talk about organizational problems with software quality first. So one of the problems that I have observed, well, actually two problems, but the first one is that usually companies, when they released a new version of software, they become very like there's a huge uncertainty involved in that process. So as a product manager, I can speak from personal experience that, whenever there's a new release, a lot of feelings run through my head, anxiety, a lack of confidence. So that's really the key of the problem here. So the software releases is really about, differentiating your business, your companies. So that's why most companies use software. And there's a lack of confidence in that process. So let's talk about it, and then I'll just talk about the second problem later. So the first point that I want to discuss and I want to talk about, and later on in the Q&A, you guys can discuss if you want. But there's a shift, and then this is like a very clear shift where software used to be process enablers. So by process enablers, you can think of spreadsheet applications, for example, Excel. So the world before spreadsheet applications was very different. So when you say spreadsheet today, most people think of Microsoft Excel, but a spreadsheet used to be an actual sheet, a sheet of paper. So if you ran a business, your accountant would just put in all the expenses, and you would get a really detailed picture of how your business worked. But a human mistake, a single human mistake, was a huge problem. Yeah. So that is what used to be the case. And accounting used to be a really boring job, you know. And so when the first spreadsheet application hit the market, the game actually changed. So the program could do in seconds what it used to take a person an entire day to do. And a lot of bookkeepers and accounting clerks were replaced by spreadsheet software. But the number of jobs for accountants, surprisingly, that actually increased. And that's a very interesting thing because, well, think about it. With the assistance of the spreadsheet applications, you can actually play the what if game. So what if I do this instead of that? What if I hire more employees? What if I charge a little less for my product? So before the spreadsheet application, humans have to do that. So there was limitations to what humans could do uh, within a limited amount of time, of course. So when the spreadsheet application came, it actually changed the game in that accountants became way more valuable. So that is one type of process enablers, the spreadsheet applications. I think that's a really good example. But process enablers here mean, just you're already doing something, and now the applications, the software came, and now you can do it better. So that's process enablers. But there's a shift, like I said, from process enablers to competitive differentiators. So think about banks, right? Now, in 2011, the top banks were racing to provide this must-have feature, which is the mobile check deposit applications. So at that time, this was just a new thing, and not a lot of banks had it, but they were all racing to provide this feature. And just 1 year later, the mobile check deposit became the leading driver for bank selection. So what does that mean? That means that if your bank doesn't have that feature, it suddenly became, a very big problem because it was considered a norm now. So getting a secure, reliable application to market was certainly business critical. So it wasn't just about enabling process anymore. This is about competitive differentiators. And then the financial institutions, and which are banks, who are unable to innovate, were threatened with customer leaving because, well, from personal experience, I the bank that I used to use in the past, they they had a mobile application, but the experience was awful. So that exactly was why I switched to a new bank with a better user experience. So both banks have mobile applications now, but as you can see, even a improvement in user experience through software was enough to make a customer switch from one solution to another. And in this case, that customer is me. So I want to give you an example to uh, tell you that there has been a shift from software being process enablers to competitive differentiators. So that's the first point, right? And the second point is that businesses need to understand the risk associated with software. And this is because software failures cost money, and it costs a lot of money. It can cost a lot of money. So as an example, so Parasoft analyzed the most, the biggest software failures in 2012 and 2013, and they found that each incident caused a declined 3% decline in the stock price. Now 3% decline is a huge number if you consider the total market, and it actually equates to an average of 2.15 billion loss of market capitalization. So software failures cost actual money. Now, I know that there are a lot of QAs here, a lot of decision makers here, and I just want to remind you that what QAs do is actually very important to the business, and it's an essential thing to release a software that doesn't have any critical issue. And most of the times we take that for granted, but whenever a critical issue happens, we suffer in a very realistic sense. So that's the tremendous loss of shareholder value. And again, the point here is that software costs a lot of money. Software failures cost a lot of money. So business need to understand the risk associated with software releases. Otherwise, they cannot control it. If they can't understand the risk, they can't control it. And so that's a very important thing. And the final point I want to make is that you can kind of see the chain of reasoning here. Um, and the third point I want to make is that it's just difficult for business people to understand the complexity of software development. So if any of you guys here come from a non-technical background, you guys will appreciate this point because software is very complex and there's a lot of nuances that if you don't understand, it can actually damage your decision making. And so, especially for business people, because well, the expertise is not software development. The expertise is business. That's where they can provide real value. But in a world where business, in a world where software has become a differentiator, and the software failures cost money, the gap between the understanding of software that business people have, it has become really important, and it becomes an actual problem for companies and for business. And so these 3 points, I want to uh, link them together and make a case that there is a problem, which is the lack of confidence in software releases. So because business people have a hard time understand software, and whenever software fails, there's a actual cost of money because software has become very important. There's a real lack of confidence in software releases, both for the business people and for the QAs and for the developers as well, because well, usually the lack of confidence or the uncertainty spreads within the team or within the companies, and it can be easily felt in that sense. So that's the first point I want to make, which is the lack of confidence in software releases. So that's the first organizational problem. Well, why is it an organizational problem? Because it affects the entire organization. Because I said, business companies, organizations, they need software to differentiate. And so this problem affects the entire organization, not just individual employees. So that's why it's a first organizational problem. And the second organizational problem is the delayed feedback loop when incidents occur. And I don't have a lot of data point to back this up, but I think this is something that we can appreciate from experience, at least from personal experience. I can definitely recall times where, we had a new version of the software released, and it contains some incidents, and we will only be able to be made aware of it when the users complain to us. So I want you to recall the last time, your software release didn't go as expected. How soon did you know about it? Did the complaints come from the customers, or was the issues caught in, did you know about the issues beforehand? And how did your customers complain? Was it through the community, the marketing channels, the customer support, or even mail directly to the business managers? Again, from personal experience, I had users who email directly to me, the product manager of the product, whenever there are problems. So, and they have good reasons to, I really appreciate that actions. So before I go to the root cause, I just want to say that the delay in feedback loop here is something that very critical to business, but it actually something that developers can understand as well. So if you think about what developers do, they produce a piece of code, and they want to be able to produce the best piece of code that they can. But usually when they commit to a branch, or when they push the code to the environment for testing, the testing process, if the testing process takes a lot of time, for example, it takes like 4 hours to 8 hours to detect a bug. That's just, well, that's how manual testing can take. That's how long manual testing can take. And so if it takes 8 hours for the developers to be finally notified about a problem in the code, by that time he had already moved on to another issue, to be working on another issue. And so now he had to switch back to the original problem. And the switching, the contextual switch is very cognitively demanding. And it actually increases the chance of causing bugs, as well as slowing down the time to actually solve the issues. So again, I just want to give some examples as to how the delayed feedback loop is something that affect the business. It also affects the developers, but it also affects other people in the teams as well, because, well, um, everyone can react to appropriately react to a problem if they become aware of it. And uh, that's why the delay feedback loop is very critical. So that is the two organizational problems that I want to talk about. Again, the first thing is that there's a lack of confidence in software releases. And the second organizational problem is that the delayed feedback loop. So let's talk about the root cause for a minute. You know, so what is the root cause of these two organizational problems? So as a product manager, I talk to many customers, and usually they already can sort of perceive the organizational problems. They kind of experience the pain caused by the problems, and they also somehow intuitively grasp the root cause. And well, some of them do, some of them don't. But I think the root cause is really what I call silo test automation. So to kind of elaborate on silo test automation, let's talk about the problems with silo test automation. So that kind of gives you the an idea of what the problem is. So testing is about finding bugs. So that is kind of a traditional way of thinking. Testing is about finding bugs and finding defects, logging defects, and these kind of thing. But if you shift your perspective to now, it isn't about test automation. It's not even about testing, but it's about software quality. So you can sort of see that when we talk about software quality, it's about business risk, because it's related to a point that I made earlier, is that software has become a competitive differentiator. So software quality is something very important to the performance of the entire organization. So the second problem here is that, well, if you talk about testing, then testers know how to do testing, right? As QAs, we can all appreciate the complexity involved in testing, and there's nothing particularly bad about being a tester. That's a very great job. But business people are experts on business risk, so a lot of times a QA isn't has a difficult time to be aware of what is the most important thing that needs to be tested. So if you release a version, and you release the version when you want to accomplish a certain objective, a certain set of objectives. So if the QA isn't aware of that set of objectives, or if it cannot establish a relationship between that set of objectives and what needs to be done on its side in order to match the expectations, it can easily be the case that even though the software passed the QA checks, uh, it doesn't really address the business risk. So That's the second point. Second point I want to make. The third point is that test automation frameworks are too technical for business people. So if any of you here have worked in a test automation framework, if any of you here have created their own test automation frameworks, you can appreciate the technical complexity involved in making it work, and that's something that is very mysterious to the business people. But if you think about software quality, again, a software quality platform isn't isn't supposed to be too technical for business people, because, well, it's supposed to be used by business people, so it shouldn't be difficult for business people to use. So hopefully you can sort of see, the problem that I call silo test automation, and by that I mean a perception that test automation is something that QAs should own, and it is only their responsibility. But in reality, when we perceive the trends across the history of software becoming a differentiator, and that business people are becoming more and more, incentivized in making the software work because it really helps the business grow and it supports their cause. You can see that from looking at that trends, we can see that test automation is something that insufficient to kind of help your organizations grow past a certain point. So in that case, I think the keyword here is software quality, and a solution for silo test automation is a software quality platform. So that is the title of this webinar, and it is also the point that I want to drive home, is that test automation, silo test automation is insufficient. And what is sufficient is a software quality platform. So at this point, some of you might wonder, well, what does it look like? What does a software quality platform look like? And I want to give you a perspective on what it should look like. Okay. So I think the key to this, to solving this problem, is that we expand our perspective so that now it includes different roles within an organization, different roles within the team. So if you just think about, if you are a QA, then you have a different set of needs. If you are business people, you have a certain set of needs. And if you are developer, you have different needs. So these are the needs that I think that each role in the team or in the organization has. So for QA, so obviously, well, first of all, I want to find bugs. I want to find issues. I want to ensure that my software is of highest quality. But the point here, but the emotional need here is that I want to make my boss confident. Well, why? Because, well, if I do a good job, and if he is confident, if he or she is confident in the software releases, then it can improve my competence as a QA. So for QA, the test authoring component is the most important thing in a software quality platform. So besides the test authoring component, we also have the test orchestration component and the test environment component. So let's talk about test orchestration component first. So this is the component that can be used by business people, right? And the business people, they have like the need to be confident, like I said. And second of all, they want to be aware of problems as soon as possible. So these are two organizational problems. They want to be confident because there's a lack of confidence, and they want to be aware of problems as soon as possible because there's usually a delayed feedback loop. So for business people, they can actually go into the test orchestration module or component, and they can schedule the automated tests that were developed by the QA. And so there should be a link from the test ordering component to the test orchestration component. The regression test can be uploaded directly, or it can be integrated through a source control system like Git, for example. So that's a test orchestration component. That is where you can really get the business people involved in. And the test orchestration not only allows business people to schedule, but it also allows business people to be notified, and it provides analytics and reports in a format that can be easily consumed by the business people. But and there comes the third component, which is the test environment. So, well, the fact of the matter is that when you want to run a regression suite, which can take a long period of time to complete, you will need a test environment. And so the business people, well, they have things to do, so they can't really execute tests on their machine, because if they do that, then they can't do anything else. So they need a test environment, and you can sort of, buy a physical machine and just use that machine as a dedicated server on which you can run your regression test on. But that really begs the question, is that the best way of utilize the machine? So if you purchase a Windows machine and you just kind of leave it there and use it to run tests, is that the best way to use that Windows machine? If you give that Windows machine to another employee, or if you use the money that you buy that Windows machine to hire another employee, would that produce more value? So that's a question that I want you to think about. So that's why the test environment component becomes an important thing in the software quality platform. So if the software quality platform provides a test environment component, then it means that the business people can actually schedule the test and go do something else, and they can have the feedback as soon as possible whenever the reports are available. And the test environment are tightly integrated with a test orchestration component in a way that the reports, the executions on the test environment component should be available on the test orchestration component as soon as possible, and the business people can be notified. So if the test environment here exists on the cloud, that is even better, because it means that you can run all day, every day. You can scale as much as possible, and then optimize your test executions, that kind of thing. And for the developers, I don't want to leave out the developers because they're very important here. And for the developers, like I said, they want to deliver quality software releases. So that means that for them, the feedback loop is very important, because, well, like I said, the problem that I mentioned earlier, a delayed feedback loop actually costs developers a lot. And you may not, if you are a developer, you can appreciate it. But if you're not a developer, it is very difficult to imagine that when you spend 4 hours thinking about something very deeply, and then there's an interruption. Okay, there's a bug on a different issue that you need to fix. The efforts that are required to switch from doing what you're doing to another thing, that is very cognitively demanding, and it increases a lot of risk as well as time. So for the developers, right, they want to have the fastest feedback as possible. So the test environment should be integrated with their CI/CD pipeline, so that whenever they commit their code on the CI/CD pipeline, the regression tests which were developed by the QA can be executed on a test environment, and it can deliver the feedback to the developers as soon as possible. So this is a perspective on what a software quality platform should look like. Okay, so hopefully at this point, it kind of makes sense to you guys. So that is software quality platform. But how does it relate to Katalon? So first of all, I want to like sort of introduce our Katalon platform. Uh, and our Katalon platform is it's more than a set of products. It's a set of products and the connections between these products and the connections between the products and the external tools. All of that define the Katalon platform. So it's not just a set of products. It's a set of products and the relationships between the products as well as the relationships with regards to external parties. So we have Studio, Katalon Studio, and Katalon Recorder. They are the test authoring solutions. We support authoring tests across multiple platforms, mobile, desktop, web, API. And test orchestration component for us is the test app, is the test app product. So it is where you can plan, you can configure the environment, you can manage your test executions, you can schedule the executions, and you can have the insights. So the business people can use and leverage test app to really get involved in software quality. We have the TestCloud, which is the test environment that I spoke about earlier. It's a cloud-based test environment, so it can help companies scale the execution as well as freeing up the resources so that they can leverage the resources, these physical resources that would otherwise be occupied for test executions. They can leverage these resources for something else more productive for the companies. And the RealTime engine is the test execution engine for the Katalon platform. So that is the Katalon platform here. And I want to kind of tie this back into what I showed you earlier, the diagram. So again, here you can see that the QA can use Katalon Studio to develop regression tests, which are uploaded to the test app product to system to source code source control systems or directly in a direct way. And the test app can be used by business people to go into test app and schedule the regression suites, which will be executed on TestCloud environment. And then the report will be available to the test app. And for the developers, they can use TestCloud to integrate into the CI/CD pipeline and receive the feedback in the fastest ways possible. So this is how Katalon. This is why Katalon claims to be a software quality platform. So hopefully that makes sense to you why we call ourselves a software quality platform. So we have the different components and we have established the relationships between the products as well as to the external parties that can get everyone in the organization get everyone in the organization involved in software quality. So a lot of words. So let me show you guys a video on how you can use Katalon platform as a whole. So let me just stop sharing my screen for a second, and I'll just show you the video. So this is Katalon Studio. As you can see, I have a lot of test cases, and in Katalon Studio, you can develop test cases very quickly and easily to the record and playback function, as well as develop test cases using Java and Groovy. You can organize the test cases into folders, and you can edit the test cases in the manual view as well as in the scripting view. So in Canon Studio, you can also group test cases into a test suite and a test suite collection. So this is a test suite collection, which is just a collection of test suites, and a test suite contains multiple test cases, as you can see here. So if I upload this project into TestUp, as you can see here, this is how TestUp, what TestUp looks like. You can see that we support multiple sources from Git repositories, as well as uploading a simple Katalon projects. And now I'm going into TestUp and initiate the scheduling of a test execution on TestCloud. So you can click on the schedule test run, and you can select multiple environments on TestCloud, as well as multiple sources that you can integrate your test. So for TestCloud, it is the default environment, so you don't have to choose anything, but just to be aware that it's the default setting on TestUp. So you can select the operating systems, the browsers, and the version of the browser. And TestUp allows you to schedule the executions rather easily. It's just one click away, literally. So when I click on schedule, it is already started, but now I'm going to click play again so that I have two executions going on. Just so you can go into a test execution and see the progress of that test execution in real time. So TestUp will also provide you a real-time view of the execution log, where you can see what is currently happening. Again, it will be run on TestCloud environment, so these test executions are happening on cloud. It doesn't require you to have a dedicated machine, or it doesn't occupy your current machine, so you can go and do something else while waiting for the test to be executed. So I have designed this test case to fail so that I can sort of show you the reports and some of the and a cool feature of TestUp. Well, anyway, after the execution, you can view the reports on TestUp. We have a lot of reports available, and it can be very insightful from a glance to have a look at what is the trend and also what is the percentage of pass-fail results. And you can sort of see how often do you and your organization run the test. So it provides you with information. And also after an execution, an email will also be sent to the relevant stakeholders, and where you can click on a link which will direct you back to TestUp and see the reports of this execution. And TestUp has a cool feature which is called similar failures analysis. And if you click on that, you can see, okay, what is the test? What do you have any test executions that fail with a similar reason, fail due to a similar reason? So it's a very cool feature, and it can really help you identify the patterns as well as see if there's something that can be improved. So that's the demo of Katalon platform, developing tests in Katalon Studio, schedule it on TestUp, and let the test be executed on TestCloud. And so that's the Katalon platform. So these are some helpful resources. I think now I will pass the mic back to Lucio so that we can kickstart our Q&A.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Thomas. Give me 1 second here to share the right screen. Are you seeing my slide deck?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, cool. All right, thanks, Thomas. So yeah, before we start the Q&A, I want to invite you all to take a look at the Academy at academy.katalon.com. It's a free online test automation tool that we have put out there for you guys to learn and become experts on Katalon and everything that has to do with test automation. Also, if you have any questions about anything and related to our products, you can always go to the forum, katalon.com, where we have a lot of smart minds participating, providing feedback, raising issues and everything. So it's a great place to have a conversation about Katalon and test automation. And obviously, if you want to find out more about how to work with our products, you can go to our documentation, and please keep an eye on our website for news and updates. We have some questions coming in. Before we do that, I want to go ahead and launch a quick poll. So I am going to give you about a minute or so you can give us feedback on how did you like this presentation, if you have any feedback on the topic that we discussed today. And so yeah, we pretty much we valued your participation a lot. So while we have this going on, I see some responses coming in. Thank you so much. I'm gonna give you a couple more seconds, or like 30. I see that everybody is very enthusiastically providing feedback, and we truly appreciate it. And we have some interesting questions coming in as well. We're going to take care of those. And I want to remind you, if you have any questions that you want to, and if you are posting any questions on the chat, please go ahead and put them on the Q&A so we can track them. There is conversation going in the chat, so it's easy for us to lose track, and we don't want you to feel ignored. All your questions are important, and we want to make sure that you get the answers that you're looking for. All right, so I am going to go ahead and end the poll. It looks like we have reached the peak of the answers here, and I appreciate. Thank you so much for all the feedback. So yeah, we have one question here, Thomas, and I would appreciate if you address this. The question is, my team has 3 QA engineers, so it looks like it's a small shop, and they want to apply test automation to their project. So what is the best free Katalon product suit for us? So I think what they mean is like, what would be the best tier for them to work with? How can they get started? I guess that would be a good way to address this.
Yeah, definitely. So I think if you have 3 QA engineers and you want to apply test automation, I will recommend Katalon Studio for you. And also you can integrate it with Katalon TestCloud. So once you scale your test automation to a certain point, you can start using Katalon Studio Enterprise and starting using TestCloud. So it depends on the maturity of your QA engineers. Really, if you're tech savvy, then you can definitely use Katalon Studio. But if you guys are looking for something that is quick and easy and appropriate for a very small team, then Katalon Recorder is another direction that you may want to try. So hopefully that answers the question.
Great. Another question that we're getting here is, let me see, what is the difference between TestOps and TestCloud? Is TestCloud a CI like in GitLab CI? I don't know that I understand the second part of the question, but can you give us the differences between TestOps and TestCloud, Thomas?
Yeah, so it means it is a web application.
I think we lost Thomas's audio. Can you hear us? All right, let's go ahead and wait a couple of seconds while Thomas reconnects on the audio. So I'll try to answer this question. And the difference is that TestCloud is a solution that we provide for. Thomas, can you hear us? Sorry, we lost you there for a second. It looks like you just came back.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead. It looks like you were on a roll there, so I'll let you answer the differences between TestCloud and TestOps.
Yeah. So TestOps is a test orchestration platform. It's a web application where you can go into and orchestrate the test executions as well as receive the reports and analytics. For TestCloud, it is a cloud-based environment. So you can imagine these sort of virtual machines where you can execute your test on, which Katalon provides. So that is the distinction between TestCloud and TestOps. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And we have another question here. To use Katalon, does it require programming knowledge or programming background?
So no, Katalon Studio is both Katalon Studio and Katalon Recorder are very user-friendly. So to get started, you don't need any programming experience to develop test cases and have them executed. Of course, if you want to handle more complicated test cases, then Katalon Studio also supports that with complex, logic handling. So even then, you can still use Katalon Studio to get the job done. Although ideally, programming experience would definitely help a lot.
Got it. Thank you. Let me see. I'm scanning through these. There is an interesting one here. I think it has to do with the reporting capabilities of the platform. It says if a scheduled automated test run, if any fault happens in the script, will the run get terminated, and will the tool send an error message and overall results? So I think the question is, if anything goes wrong with the automated test script, will it stop, and will it give you a notification of some sort?
Yeah. So if your test failed, then you will receive a notification. You can use Katalon Studio to do that, or you can use TestOps. Both tools, both products support sending emails upon failures. So
excellent. Sounds good. And yeah, that's one of the cool things about actually, if you also are orchestrating with TestOps, right? You get in the reporting and insights, you can get a lot of data on what is going on with all your tests. Let's see.
Okay.
Pardon me. Go ahead.
No, I thought I was breaking up, but
no, we got you. All right, so I think we have time for a couple more questions. There is one here that says, we are developing and maintaining an e-commerce site. Should we automate more UI end-to-end or API test? And which Katalon product would help us do that?
So again, I think Katalon Studio and Katalon TestCloud, I think for your case, for an e-commerce website, you can use in Katalon Studio. You can schedule them on TestOps, and you can run them on TestCloud. I don't see why you can't use all three, the entire platform.
Got it. All right, so that is all the questions that we have for today, and I want to thank you, Thomas, for your help and all the insights that you provided today and the content. I want to also thank all the participants, and as I mentioned at the beginning, the recording for this webinar will be available on demand on our website later. Thanks everyone again for being here with us today. I appreciate your time. I hope you have a wonderful day. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we will talk to you later.
Okay. Thank you, Luis.
Thank you. All righty. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.